party is on. It's spring break and senior night in Alabama. And the final tune-up before the championship portion of the gymnastics season begins. With 4 national titles to their credit, the second-ranked Crimson Tide of Alabama is truly on a roll, with 4 consecutive scores over the 197 mark. This will be their final tune-up before next week's SEC championship. LSU has had a challenging season plagued with injuries and inconsistency, but there's a lot at stake as LSU needs to register a high team score to earn seeding in the upcoming NCAA regional tournament. It's the Crimson Tide of Alabama versus the Tigers of LSU and SEC Gymnastics coming up next. Welcome inside Coleman Coliseum on the campus of the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Alabama for our coverage of the SEC on ESPN. This is the final weekend of dual meets before we meet for next week's SEC championships, and here are the current SEC standings. As you can see, Florida and Arkansas at the top of the leaderboard, then Alabama, and at the bottom of that leaderboard is LSU, 0-5 in the SEC this year and at risk of going winless in the SEC for the first time since way back in 1993. Hi everybody, I'm Bart Connor and I'm proud to be joined by Kathy Johnson-Clark and Suzanne Yocklin, and we're in for a great night of gymnastics, and there's more than just a win-loss record at stake here. The Crimson Tide are very impressive, but for the LSU Tigers, they need a good score tonight, don't they?
Absolutely. Unlike most sports, collegiate women's gymnastics teams qualify to the national championships and are seeded based on their regional qualifying score. It is not their win-loss record. So LSU is hoping tonight to increase their RQS. The RQS is a team's best 6 scores, a minimum of 3 of them being away. Throw out the high and average the other 5. LSU right now is counting a low 193 score in their away, and they hope to get rid of that tonight.
Now, it'd be important, Mike, for Alabama, of course. This is their final meet at home. But the turning point in that team for the season was really the devastating loss against Florida, wasn't it?
Absolutely. They said it themselves. It was a huge kick in the rear end. They went back in the gym and worked their tails off and then went on a competitive tear, scoring 197 in 4 competitions in a row. Now they're looking ahead at the championship season 1 week away. They really want to approach this as a dry rehearsal, and they are doing just that. They warmed up just the same way that they will at the championships. That said, you do not want to lose the momentum, but you don't want to go to the well too much so you have nothing left. We talked to Sarah and said, well, how do you want this team to approach the competition?
Well, I think, first of all, you want to go through the process of what you need to do to prepare for the championships. And, you know, I've always said to the ladies, some teams are off this weekend. We happen to be competing. Would you rather practice or would you rather compete? And for them, I think they'd much rather compete.
Trust me, they want to treat this more than a glorious competition because they know all too well what can happen if you don't stay focused.
Should be some great gymnastics. The final dual meet of the season in the SEC. It's the Crimson Tide and the LSU Tigers coming up next. Now for the start of competition, here is the dual meet format. 4 rotations. We'll see competition in the vault, bars, beam, and floor. 6 gymnasts per team, per event on each apparatus, and then the top 5 scores count towards the team total. And in college gymnastics, it's all about team scores and a lot less about individual scores in international competition. Because Alabama is the host, they will go in Olympic order, which means they start on the vault. First up will be freshman Sarah DeMeo, who's had just an outstanding year in her first year with the Crimson Tide.
Alabama's ranked 3rd on the vault. They're ranked in the top 3 on every single event. Really strong team. 2nd overall in the nation.
They're hoping tonight to do what they did last week at Michigan, where they stuck 4 out of 6 vaults. David Patterson, the vaulting coach, said he needs a raise.
This is really an exciting time in the season. As you approach championship season, you're really starting to see more stuck landings. They're going after every 10th of a point. Laid out full. Little hop on that one. We're going to see a lot of this vault. Very common vault in collegiate gymnastics. Laid out full twist. You really want to see the head above the level of the table at the end of that twist.
LSU opens on the bars. Erica Garcia, the sophomore from Mexico, will be first to go for them. LSU has had a challenging year. Lots of injuries and bumps in the road.
And Bart, they had a very challenging warm-up on this event. I'm not sure how it's going to go. one person missed in warm-ups, and then it was almost like the domino effect. Everybody got tight, nervous, and they were not swinging freely.
Head coach Dee Dee Bro knew they were going to have a difficult year because they graduated 4 superstar seniors.
All right, a hit routine.
A hit routine to start it out is big. Philip Ogletree, the bar coach, said that this has definitely been their most difficult event this year. They have 4 freshmen in the lineup.
Back over now to vault. Ashley Sledge will go, the sophomore out of Illinois. 9-8 for Sarah DeMeo, their first vaulter.
Judges are really looking for the bigness of this vault. Well, you can't beat that landing.
No, that was beautiful.
And she was very straight in the air. Nice dynamics to this vault.
She has really been improving.
Oh my goodness. You know, the combination of power and technique is outstanding.
The last 2 meets, she's had actually her highest score.
Alabama off to a good start. Ashley Sledge has played a key role in their bar performance as well. She'll be leading off for Alabama on the bar. Haley Dixon, the freshman out of Florida, will be next up when the score is ready for the previous performer, Erica Garcia.
One thing Dee Dee Bro said she did not want to see from her athletes tonight was fear. I saw a little bit creep in during the bar warm-ups, and particularly with this gymnast, Ashley, this first opening sequence, she was a little tight, nervous, missed it the first time out. Then she got it, and ended up finishing the warm-ups pretty strong. But
this is a young team. Gymnastics fans will remember the 4 All-American seniors last year. Susan Jackson, Summer Hubbard, Sabrina Franciselli, and Kayla Rogers were really the core of that team.
She's got to get this first handstand up into the hop right there. All right, she was a little bit over, but she made it. And tight on that.
Last week she actually missed that release move. So
and there's an extra swing right there. You could just see the nerves in her swing. It's very tight, very jerky.
But it's not a full deduction. That was not a 5/10 deduction. She kept going.
The score, by the way, for the first performer for LSU, Erica Garcia, was a 9.75.
Oh, she was a little bit over on that handstand and then in very tight, but managed to hang on and had the pause there.
Ashley Sledge, her score was a 9.9 in the second performance for Alabama. Now Marissa Gutierrez.
Wow, another stuck vault.
Good distance on that one.
This athlete has really been improving this season. The beginning of the year, she was first up on vaulting, and as she's been getting going and improving on every single event, Sarah moved her back into the lineup a little bit deeper.
They said early on they really wanted to focus on big, high, and long distance vaults. Boy, they're getting that, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Alabama has a unique opportunity tonight. There is Sarah Patterson. If they get a huge score, anything over 197.6, they could move into the top ranking and the regional qualifying scores and take over that national lead. And the championship season is coming up next week, SECs, and then NCAA regionals and the NCAA championships. All of this is important right now.
And I know Sarah would love that #1 seed. Every coach does, because it's a subjective sport. So you get that #1 seed, and it goes a long way.
Still no score for Haley Dixon. We're waiting on that. Sometimes this first rotation, particularly on the bars, the scores are just a little bit slow. We mentioned this is a challenging year for LSU. They have a lot of talent, but they've had too many obstacles and so many injuries resulting in surgeries. A very inexperienced team. And Dee Dee Bro said she's been waiting for a leader to emerge, and she hasn't seen much of that this year for the Tigers.
Well, as I said, Dixon missed last week, but then LSU hit the next 4 routines after that, so we hope that they do the same thing tonight.
Shelby Prunty now. Kaylee Dixon's score was only a 9.3.
Woo, nice high release move there. A little bit of pressure on this gymnast. Really want to get back on track, be able to drop that lower score. They count the top 5 scores in the team. All right, smiling before she landed.
All right, we're off to a great start tonight. Good gymnastics in the SEC. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Here is Geraldine Stack-Eaton, the junior out of Horsham, Pennsylvania, who's having just a banner year for the Crimson Tide.
She is having a fantastic season.
Wow.
Very nice ball.
Love that ball. Straight
Combination
body.
of both.
And she knows it was great. You know, she's averaging a 9.9 or higher in the last 3 meets. And I'm sure this vault will score just as high as that.
Beautifully done. Just that tiny little hop backwards.
She is ranked 13th in the country on this event, and in fact, 4 of the vaulters from Alabama, Kayla Hoffman, Deandra Milner, are tied for 2nd in the country. Ashley Sledge and Geraldine Stack-Eaton are tied for 13th. Boy, they are deep, and particularly on this event. As you mentioned, Kathy, a very balanced team, really no weaknesses anywhere. Sarah Zoldos, the freshman out of Clearwater, Florida, will be up for LSU on the bars. We're waiting for the score for Shelby Prunty. Melissa Gutierrez had a 9.825 on vault. And Geraldine Stack-Eaton, her performance on vault results in a 9.875.
I'm really surprised with that score. I thought she would have scored higher than that. Her technique was really, really good, and the landing was excellent.
Well, maybe they're saving room because they have Kayla Hoffman and Deandra Miller coming up, and they're amazing.
You're not supposed to save room, Bart.
Oh, excuse me, Coach. Are you challenging the judges here, Suzanne?
You need to score what you see.
All right, LSU's Sarah Zoldos now. Shelby Prunty had a 9.75. Good comeback of the 9.3 for Kaylee Dixon.
Ooh, a little bit short on that handstand up on the high bar. But ideally, what they are going for, hit routines.
I'm really hoping for hit routines, Kathy.
Yep. Fought for the landing, a little bit short of rotation, but stayed on her feet.
And this is the event that they really struggle with, so if they can get past this event and get 5 scores, 5 solid scores, that'll really help them move ahead in the regional qualifying score and in their ranking.
You talk about a senior leader. This Kayla Hoffman is having also a banner year. Geraldine Stack-Eaton's 9.875, and the 2 big vaulters are coming up now.
Gorgeous! There it is. There it is. That had it all.
I'd be flashing a 10 right about now. Oh, yeah.
So pretty. Extended straight.
Oh, my
Watch how she
goodness.
almost pauses before she twists. Watch right here. Opens up, then twists. Opens back up and nails it.
She really sets that twist, like you said, Kathy. She waits when she comes off that table.
She knows how to sell the landing, too. How about that?
I think she said, ta-da!
Well, she is such a competitor. I mean, this is her night. She's going to hit everywhere. Wow. I'd love to know the deduction.
9.95, the score for Kayla Hoffman, the senior leader, and this is senior night here in Alabama. Sari Morrison now, the freshman out of Dallas, Texas, has really emerged as one of the strongest performers for the Tigers this year in this decimated team based on injuries. She is doing a great job, and she's a very balanced gymnast at 5 feet 9 inches tall.
Yeah, but try to swing between those bars. They actually have to raise the bar all the way up, and she still touches the floor with her toes.
When she hits a handstand, it is beautiful, though. It is long and goes on forever.
Sarah Zoldos had a 9.725, so the low score of 9.3 would likely be dropped if LSU can get 2 more hit routines.
Oh, no.
My goodness, looks like she had it.
I thought she did.
You know, the angle looked really perfect. She just, sometimes the athletes just don't get their hand up over the bar far enough.
You really need to get your hands on the bar before your weight comes down. If it happens at the same time, it's just too
Pulls
much
you right
torque,
off.
too much tug on the grips.
She had an all-around score of 39.575 this year, one of the highest scores in the country against Georgia. Unfortunate start here because now there are 2 mistakes for LSU, not what they wanted in the first rotation.
No, they won't be able to get a 49 score on this event with 2 falls.
Oh, and the rest of the routine was sensational.
You can see she's disappointed.
Anything over a 49, as you mentioned, really is sort of the benchmark because 49s across the board result in a 196, which is what LSU is hoping to get tonight. Deandra Milner, Kayla Hoffman had a 9.95. Let's see what Deandra Milner can do.
Wow, nice power and a
Let's see the 10 tonight.
Wow, we really need to see the 10.
We do. It's a 1.5 twist, much more difficult, especially with the landing. She does it well,
Beautiful.
Stretched out.
Oh, what a landing, and it's
yeah.
a blind landing. Oh, yeah, the rise in height and amplitude was beautiful.
Watch this here, too, as the arms go out to the side, opens up. Gorgeous.
Yeah,
She has been just a breath of fresh air, the freshman coming in, and boy, did she rock it.
You know, when it's a bad day for her, she gets a 9.85. You know, I'd have to take a bent knee. I'd have to take the bent knee, just a quarter, you know, a half a tenth. I'd have to.
If you have to be picky. I mean, I can definitely see it there.
9.975.
Beautiful.
A season high for Deandra Milliner in just her freshman year. Can you imagine what she's going to contribute to this program over the next few years? Unbelievable. The score for Sarah Morrison is just a 9.225. So as we mentioned, 2 low scores for LSU on bars, meaning they're going to have to count one of them. Likely the 9.3 from Kaylee Dickinson. Finally, Samantha Engel now, the lone senior on this LSU team.
Much more difficulty in this routine. Good variety of skills.
Yeah, that was a nice release move called a Corkina.
Dee Bro said we need her to be consistent tonight if we're going to have a strong result.
Nice dismount. That's the routine they needed.
It's always great when the anchor hits because that keeps that momentum going on the next event.
Really nice combination of skills in this routine. Pretty good handstand position. Good difficulty on the dismount and comes up with a good landing.
All right, we'll be back with her score in the standings after the first of rotations. It's Bart Connor, Kathy Johnson-Clark, and Suzanne Yoklin calling the action. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Coleman Coliseum. Here are the scores for LSU on the uneven bars. The 2 low scores of 9.3 and 9.225. Samantha Engel finished it off with a 9.85. Alabama getting better every week. And in fact, on vault, you see their scores capped off by Deandra Milliner's 9.975. So here are the standings after 1 of 4 rotations. Alabama sets a new season high by 25 thousandths of a point on vault. And LSU falls 1.2 points behind after the first rotation. We flip-flop now, so Alabama will move to the bars and LSU will be on the vault.
You know what's amazing about Alabama on bars is even though they haven't had as many big scores on this event, they've been improving every week. They started the season out ranked 38th in the country on bars, and then last week moved up to 11th, and now they're 3rd in the country, so they have really been improving over the last 4 weeks.
Erica Garcia will lead off the vaulters for LSU.
Solid vault. Yurchenko laid out with a full twist. This is when you can really compare strengths. Notice at the end of her vault, her head was below the level of the table. You really want
huge event for Alabama. Ashley Sledge leading off. She has been critical to this team in terms of an impactful performance on the bars, but sometimes it's cost her her individual score, isn't it?
I'll tell you what, it was a smart move to put her in the front, but you're right. It changes her score going in the leadoff position. She will score higher at the end.
Well, it shouldn't change her score. The judges should judge exactly what they see, but Ashley was scoring higher when she was later in the lineup.
It's human nature.
And now it's been about at a 9.85 average, but she really gets the momentum going for this team.
This is a fantastic routine. Amazing double layout dismount. What a start. Her handstands were right on. The swing was tight, aggressive, powerful. Look at the handstand position now. And this is an absolutely gorgeous double layout.
I love the lift on the second flip. She just goes higher on the second layout than the first one.
After the travesty of their bar performance against Florida, they switched the lineup around. Now back to LSU. This is Sarah Zoldos.
Little different vault, the Yurchenko half with the front layout. They actually have 2 of these vaults in their lineup.
Erica Garcia, by the way, had a 9.725 to lead off for LSU there. We're waiting for bar scores. I think the judges are trying to find where there were any deductions at all. That was unbelievable.
I think she'll be back in that 9-9 range where she was before when she was later in the lineup with those good handstands and stuck landing.
What's to deduct?
Becca Alexin will be next on bars.
And there's the 9-9.
Look at that, 9-9 for Ashley Sledge in the lead-off position.
Oh, that's championship level events when you can start off with a 9-9 as long as you can keep it going now.
Talk about a deep team. They're a young team. They have 8 freshmen. But I don't think there's any team in the country that has the depth that Alabama does.
Becca has very pretty positions on this event. Watch her handstand. Very straight, toes pointed. Nice combination back up to the high bar.
A little leg separation there on that release stab.
Sarah Patterson says she's my Nastia Lukin. International gymnastics fans, of course, know the Olympic champion. They have a similar look.
And this is the give and take. You know, when you put an Ashley Sledge up first that has more difficulty, a harder dismount,
right,
a stronger routine, it makes this routine look not as strong. So that's where the strategy comes in.
Haley Dixon now. Score for Sarah Zoldos was a 9-8.
This one's a full twist, not quite coming up with the stuck landings that we saw from Alabama.
The challenges continue for LSU. One of their star freshmen, Malia Mathis, is only going to be competing in the vault. She'll be coming up next for LSU. She has suffered what's called an eye abrasion, and so it's likely she will only do the vault for LSU, which puts them at an additional disadvantage. Score for Becca Alexin was a 9.85. Rachel Terry now.
All over the bar.
Now this is another strategy move for Sarah Patterson. This athlete, Rachel Terry, does a full twisting double back dismount, a more difficult dismount than Milliner, who's sometimes in the lineup.
More difficulty in the routine, tiny little form breaks.
All right, Alabama looking great in the second rotation here on the bar. More gymnastics when we come back. We're back at the Coleman Coliseum. Here is Ashley Lee, the junior out of Vacaville, California. The scores for LSU, Haley Dixon had a 9.825.
She's competed in every single meet on vault and floor exercise for LSU.
Let's see where her head is. Right as the vault finishes in the air, her head is just level with the vault. Judges really like to see that way up above the level of the table, but they're hitting their vaults. That's what's important for LSU.
We wait for the score for Rachel Terry on the bars. Sarah DeMeo will be next up. 9.775 the score for Rachel Terry. Here's DeMeo. You see her season high, 9.85. As deep as Alabama is, they're even missing Ashley Priest, who's been out for most of the season. Not sure if she's going to make it back in time for the championship part of the season.
I don't know if I'd rock the boat right now. This lineup is hitting. This will be the 5th meet in a row if they hit tonight. Although I think Alabama really could use Ashley Priest on the uneven bars. That would make this event a little bit deeper for them.
And third in the country on this event.
Very, very solid routine. She also does the double layout, comes up with a good landing. She had a few little form breaks with feet throughout the routine, but solid.
Malia Mathis now. We mentioned her eye abrasion. This is likely the only event she'll do tonight.
Whoa! I guess she didn't need to see that landing. Sorry, I had to go there.
Yurchenko half with a front layout is a blind landing.
Yes, I was...
No pun intended.
Oh boy,
No,
these are all bad. You know, what an impressive thing. You know, today they spent half the day trying to get her contact lenses and get her eye taken care of and putting some drops in her eye that would reduce the pain. And boy, did she rock a vault there.
Dee said that's just like the whole year. They've been dealing with things all season long.
Her teammate, by the way, Ashley Lee, had a 9.85. Alabama really boasts two superstars at the end of their lineup. These anchor performances coming up now from Geraldine Stack-Eaton and then senior Kayla Hoffman are just out of this world.
I enjoyed talking to them about that, and I like the fact that they're such good friends, but they're competitive with each other. They push each other.
Beautiful Ray. I love that release move.
This is really as good as she has looked her entire collegiate career.
You know, I still want to get back to this Ashley Sledge thing because I think it'll be interesting to see what Coach Patterson does in postseason if she moves her back into the lineup to build those scores at the end.
Great job. What a gorgeous routine.
Watch her toe point on this release move. I mean, it's a silly thing, but you rarely
Not
see
at all.
Beautiful extension.
It jumps right out at me. Love the form. In the air, toes pointed, and then lands it like a dart.
And they're not done yet because Kayla Hoffman will wrap it up over there. Back at the vault, Malia Mathis, with essentially one eye, scored a 9.9. The freshman Sari Morrison now. By the way, Mathis's 9.9 is a season high.
That's the biggest vault right
That'll
there.
score well. That'll score well.
Huge.
Good comeback for her. Very nice job.
And this is an event where that 5'9" frame really is an advantage because she just looks so much bigger off the table.
Geraldine Stack-Eaton had a 9.925. And Kayla Hoffman, who is celebrating senior night, will cap it off. This so far is an amazing night for the Crimson Tide.
It really is what takes you over that hump into the 9.9 range. When you have the high level difficulty and then add the form that we're seeing from these final two gymnasts. Beautiful stretch, beautiful positions, and the toe point is exquisite. Very nicely done. Oh, she took that little step back.
Oh. There's her mother, Helen, on senior night. Families are here in attendance. What a rotation for the Crimson Tide on the bars. We'll come back with her score and the standings at the halfway point in this SEC battle. Don't go away. Welcome back to Tuscaloosa. You're watching the SEC on ESPN. Let's update the scores. Alabama, impressive on the bars. Stack-Eaton's 9.92, just out of this world. Kayla Hoffman, a 9.825. A new season high, 500ths off a season high for Alabama. LSU on the vault, they have a new season high, 49.275. So here are the team standings at the halfway point. Alabama maintains a lead of a little over 1.2 over the visiting LSU Tigers. Suzanne is down on the floor with LSU's Dee Bro right now.
Dee Dee, you had a problem on bars, had to count a fall, but you came back and had your season high on vaulting. Are you accomplishing what you wanted to tonight?
Well, you know, falling short on bars hurt us because, you know, you dig a hole, now you got to spend the whole meet trying to get out of it. Sari Morrison kind of tweaked her ankle and her knee, so we're going to probably have to pull her out. I'm not going to let her do floor, and I'll be on a event as we go for beam. So we'll see. But yeah, you know, vaulting worked out well. We just got 2 more events now.
We'll try to keep it going. Good luck.
All right, now for Alabama on the beam, Deandra Milliner will be up. The first performer for Alabama while we were away, Marissa Gutierrez, had a 9.25. Their first fall on beam in 4 meets.
Yeah, and that's tough when that first girl falls. Everyone knows it.
It's one of the things we talked about coming into this competition. How do you approach it? What do you want to accomplish? Should you try to keep the intensity up and ride it all the way through SECs, regionals, championships? That's a very difficult thing to do, especially with a team who's on this kind of tear. But now it's how they respond to it. Put a little bit of pressure now on the remaining gymnasts. They know how to handle that pressure.
It's interesting, they're ranked 3rd in the country, but really only 2 gymnasts in the lineup competed at last year's NCAAs.
And Milner, she's been competing on and off on balance beam this year for Bama. So this is a spot coming in after a fall that she's not really that used to. She's handling it really well. She looks solid so far, and she's getting ready to dismount.
Good comeback routine here.
Erica Garcia now up on floor for LSU. Their first performance from Shelby Prunty was a 9.75. Remember, LSU's goal tonight is surely to get a win if they can, but most importantly, to mark a top score in that 196 range. They hope to move up in their regional qualifying standings.
Well, right now, Bart, they're pacing about a high 194, so if they can keep it going, they will be able to move up somewhat.
Looks like she hurt her ankle.
She hurt her ankle.
Oh, just what LSU needs. Oh, all the injuries they've had so far this year.
Oh, her knee or something.
Oh.
Knee, it looks like. Oh, no.
Oh, boy, they've had tons of trouble.
We'll come back to her in a minute, to the beam now as competition continues. Deandra Milliner had a 9.7 in the second performance for Alabama. Kim Jacob up now.
Last time we saw Alabama, it was at Georgia, and they scored a 49.525. That's a 9.905 average on this event.
You know, I love that Sarah Patterson looks at the big picture. She's always thinking about postseason, and she's got 2 athletes prepared to go first up on balance beam. Marissa, who you saw, who competed earlier tonight, and then Kim Jacob, who's also competed a number of times in the first position, so she's ready for anything.
And it really is trying to find that magical mix, that order of how the athletes compete best.
And yet pacing
best
throughout the rest of the season. I mean, Brian Rochilla, the assistant coach, was telling us that they really look at the season in sort of 3 parts. You know, the early season, the mid-season, and then championship season. And you compete differently at different times of the year, don't you?
You absolutely do. You know, when you're getting close to postseason, the intensity definitely increases in practice, particularly, so it carries over to the competitions.
Incredibly solid routine, good landing, back on track here.
I love that athlete on balance beam. I love that Branny, that half turn that she does. It's really different.
You see on the floor there is Erica Garcia, who appears to have tweaked her knee. They carried her off the floor, and she is being attended to now. Her score was a 9-7, even though she hurt her knee in that final tumbling run. Kaylee Dixon will be up now. Sure hope Erica Garcia is all right. Interesting what LSU might do here. Even Malia Mathis, who is slated to only do vault tonight, might be in the floor lineup. We'll have to see.
Well, last week this was their highest scoring event, and the last 4 girls in the lineup scored above a 9.85. So.
And Sari Morrison, who apparently tweaked her knee and ankle in her vault, might be out of the lineup. And Ashley Lee might get the call to replace her. So LSU really having to scramble here and jigsaw puzzle their lineup together. Not what they wanted. Remember, you can commit to a lineup, but you can change the lineup up to the last minute.
Well, once the competition starts on an event, if you want to change the lineup, it has to be in the same place as the athlete that you took out. You can't change the position in the lineup unless the event has not started.
On the green for Alabama,
Kim Jacob had a 9.85, so the 3 scores for Alabama so far range from 9.25 to 9.7 to 9.85. Important opportunity here for the rest of this lineup to nail 3 more solid scores.
With a balance check after that full turn. Oh! No. I was just getting ready to remark on how confidently she is competing and performing. And
she actually scored 2 9.9s in the last 4 meets, so that fall is a surprise. And I'm sure that Coach Patterson will be concerned going into the SECs in only a week that they are making mistakes on this event tonight, where there's not a lot of pressure from the opponent.
that might be part of the problem, though. Sometimes it's better to have more pressure when there's more on the line. This was a tricky one, this competition.
Right. A heavy favorite at home. Alabama hoping to gain some experience from this event and yet still pace their athletes getting ready for the championship part of the season.
You got to remember, tonight's senior night for Kayla Hoffman,
right.
And there's tons of emotion leading up to this competition.
And Sarah said she's an emotional type, so it was going to affect her a great deal more.
You know, some athletes performed their best on senior night, but in Georgia, it never was a good night for seniors.
And she has a very extended family here to cheer her on as well.
Well, if you're going to hit a speed bump, it's certainly best during this competition than at SECs.
We saw how Alabama rallied after a disappointing performance at Florida. Maybe something like this late in the season is one of those eye-opening moments. Kaylee Dixon had a 9.775, so here is Samantha Engel.
Talking about injury, she had a badly sprained ankle earlier in the year, which kept her out of floor at the beginning of the season.
You can see voluntary coach Ashley Claire Kearney in the background. She's helping with the choreography this year, and
she's going to law school as well.
Of course, a national champion on both the vault and the floor exercise.
There are Gary and Sandy Engel in attendance. Samantha's parents will come back with her score. and update the third rotation right after this. Clark Connor, Kathy Johnson-Clark, and Suzanne Yock, and we're back now. Sarah DeMeo has had a strong season, 3 balance beam titles. Alabama has had 2 falls over here, a 9.25 for Marissa Gutierrez, and Kayla Hoffman a low 9.3. So one of those scores, the 9.3, will count towards their team total.
Well, so far it's definitely been a mixed bag here on balance beam. We've seen really extraordinary performances and then uncharacteristic performances from some. It's just, I think it tells the story of going into this type of competition.
Absolutely, like you said, Kathy, you know, sometimes top teams need that competition to push them and keep them focused. Last week against Michigan, Alabama was on, and Michigan, one of the top teams in the Big Ten, was really pushing them the whole way, and they stayed focused and hit every single event.
Boy, this was one of the better ones, and a great double pipe dismount. Very, very difficult, and she nails it.
Last time we saw this in Georgia, she stumbled out of it, so this is much better direction, straight up.
Wow, super
straight
difficulty.
Back to the floor for LSU, the score for Samantha Engel, a 9.85. Now this is a little bit of an unexpected opportunity here. Malia Mathis, not expected to do floor, but the lineup is so decimated with injuries. She is going to step up and try to deliver a good score for LSU. Wow. Mathis brought them to their feet at LSU recently, scoring a 9.975.
Well, this is definitely a highlight for LSU here. And for this young gymnast. Nicely done.
And what a gutsy performance considering what she's been to today.
What a strong double pike at the end, too.
Well, sometimes adversity brings out the best in you.
Geraldine Stack Eaton now, the final performer for Alabama on beam. The score for Sarah DeMeo, a 9.95. Rewarded for that high difficulty.
It was beautiful. Talking about RQS now, regional qualifying score. Not only does it seed the teams going into the NCAAs and determine the ranking, but also the individual rankings. And Stack Eaton has an RQS on the balance beam above a 9.9, which is amazing. It shows consistency throughout the year, home and away.
She's ranked #1 in the nation on this event. She's been incredibly consistent throughout the season. And more than that, she just looks really nice on this event. Very good presentation.
So far solid, no big deductions at all.
She's been nursing a back and knee injury, so it's likely this is the last time we'll see her tonight. She's not slated to compete on the floor. With the depth that Alabama has, they can afford to rest some of their superstars prior to this championship part of the season.
That's a back 1.5, a blind landing. Small little hop will cost her about a 1/2 of a tenth.
Malia Mathis delivered a 9.875. So here's the final performer, Ashley Lee, that is stepping in for Sari Morrison.
pulled that out. Well, Dee Bro has to be pleased that they at least came through on this event.
You got to hand it to them. I mean, really. And Dee said she's tired of treading water. When she's not intense, the team's not intense, and she's really been turning up the heat. She wants this team to qualify to the national championships.
All right, we'll be back with the score for Ashley Lee and catch you up on the standings after 3 or 4 rotations. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Here is LSU scores on the floor exercise. High score there, Malia Mathis, a 9.875. For Alabama on the beam, a disappointment. Half a point off their season average. And you see they had to count that 9.3 from Kayla Hoffman. Sarah DeMayo's 9.95, the highlight there. Here are the team standings after 3 or 4 events. And LSU has closed the gap. Now they're only separated by 0.85. Suzanne is down with Sarah Patterson right now.
Coach Patterson, a great start on the first 2 events. You had to kind of fall on balance beam. What did you say to the girls to get the momentum back on this last event?
You know, I just said when we go to floor exercise, we need to do our routines. We need to think positive. We need to think energy, because I think that's what we've been lacking just a little bit of on the 3rd event. So we're going to pick it up and do a great job here.
Well, good luck the rest of the way.
Let's go. Okay. Great floor, great ball team. Let's get up there and relax. Okay, let's just work together. Team hit on 3. 1, 2, 3. Team hit!
All right, Dee Bro knows their team has closed the gap a little bit on Alabama. Any meet that is separated by less than a point is pretty tight in collegiate gymnastics.
And as Coach Bro told them, you cannot relax.
Interesting challenge here for LSU because they have not been able to handle much adversity in previous meets. Dee Bro said when we had one fall, we had a domino effect and it led to several others. So last week was the first time she saw a good response from her team. After a fall, they got tough and delivered. So they're ranked 22nd in the country on this event, and here's a chance for them to close the gap even more on Alabama.
And they're hoping to move to the top 18 in the country because the top 18 teams are seeded in the NCAA regional competition. And with a 49 or close to a 49 on this event, LSU would post a mid-195 score, which would help them tremendously in the RQS.
Shelby Prunty in that critical lead-off position on beam.
There's really hardly a more important role than being lead-off gymnast on any event, but particularly the balance beam. Really set the tone, the pace.
And Dee says that she's really been pushing the team on this event. And she doesn't mind pushing them, but she doesn't want to have to pull them. So if you pull them, you can't see where you're going.
I'm sure she wishes that some of her own intensity would rub off on the athletes. You really do have to have that intensity and that focus.
She told us she took off 1 week. She said, I'm going to lay back a little bit and let's see how the young ladies do. And they laid an egg against Kentucky, scored only a 192.95. So she said, I'm going to get back to that intensity and demanding practice regimen.
I can't imagine it being anything other than that.
Kim Jacob will open it up for Alabama on the floor. You can never go wrong with Sweet Home Alabama in this building.
I think she opens up with a full twisting double back. Against Georgia, she did a double pipe, but I believe tonight it's a full twisting double back. Yes.
There it is.
Oh, in a pipe position. She stiff-legged the landing, which is why she almost touched her hands, but she didn't.
The old gymnasts sitting on the sidelines are grabbing our knees here.
You talk about depth. They often warm up as many as 8 athletes and give the signal to the top 6 as to who will compete, but they have the depth that very few teams in the country this year can boast.
Sarah says she loves the flexibility that this depth provides her, where she really can take advantage of using that depth and resting people at different times, like Geraldine Stack-Eaton tonight.
How do we go from Sweet Home Alabama to some kind of Euro disco music? I don't like it. No offense. Let's go back to Sweet Home Alabama.
I'm sure the fans up there are saying the same thing.
Now watch on this full twisting double back. She does it well, but then when she comes in for the landing, those legs just come straight in like a dart, but she's leaning forward like a peg leg landing. Ooh.
Haley Dixon, you see her score. She's had a good day. Shelby Prunty had a 9.825 in that leadoff position.
And you mentioned, Bart, the score that LSU had against Kentucky. You know, when they got back home, Dee Dee had T-shirts printed that said 24-7, and she had the score 192 something on the T-shirt. She wanted to remind everyone how poorly they had done, and
ouch.
It actually worked because they came back with that 196 against New Hampshire.
There's the coaching philosophy. Do you provide the carrot or present the stick? It looks like Dee Dee Bro went with the stick.
Now she's repeating her flight. She attempted the back handspring layout step out and stopped in between, knew that she was crooked, adjusted, stepped forward and did the flight again, which if she had not, she would have been missing a special requirement.
She got through it.
You got to hand it to them. If they hit these 6-beam routines, they have gotten a whole lot. What did Dee Dee say? Something about making lemonade?
Yeah.
She said that tonight.
Yeah, they will have a moral victory if they can get through beam solidly. Sarah DeMeo, look at her scores for this evening. So she is an all-arounder. This is her 4th and final performance. Kim Jacob had a 9.75 for her leadoff performance.
Sarah DeMeo is actually in the all-around tonight. I really like this athlete. She's very athletic. Wow, that was a beautiful 2.5 twist for our last pass. Usually you see the athlete's legs come apart at the end on this tumbling run. But watch how nice and tight her legs are. Her head's in position, which is why her legs are able to stay together.
Very, very impressive, too. The way she's competing as a freshman, showing so much poise.
Isn't that interesting? We talk about how good Alabama is. They're consistently using 40% of their routines from freshmen, and over half of their routines come from freshmen and sophomores. So they're good now. Can you imagine how good they're going to be in the next couple of years? Back to the beam now for LSU. Kaylee Dixon had a 9.65. Casey Duval now. Also a replacement, as Dee Dee Bro is having to piece together a respectable lineup because of all the injuries. Oh!
That's too bad. They were really starting to string together Some solid performances. Well, difficult stepping into the lineup, having all the changes that they've had, the injuries that they're dealing with. It is a difficult place for this gymnast to be in. But unfortunately, that's the kind of experience you have to gain to be able to perform, particularly on the balance beam.
Season high on floor exercise for Ashley Sledge. As you see, is a 9.9. It's always fun to watch her.
She's having a good meet.
Coach Patterson said that she wants all of the girls in her floor lineup to start with that difficult first tumbling pass or have a combination like Ashley did where she tumbled into the double back. You know, Bart, I noticed that she just took out something in her middle pass. She did not do the twist on the second layout, which she doesn't need in order to have a 10-0 start value. But Sarah had said earlier that this was a really hard week of practice with school demands and exams, and not exams, but just, you know, right before spring break. Yeah. And she was going to make the changes if she needed to.
One of the things that I talked about in the opening is that you have to balance the needs here and to not go to the well so much that there's nothing left when you get to SEC championships and nationals. Because this is a team that can contend for the national championship.
Absolutely. And you know, I've been in Coleman Coliseum so many times and the energy level is down.
All right, we'll be back with the score for Ashley Sledge and the final performances. We're back at Coleman Coliseum. Mark Connor along with Kathy Johnson-Clark and Suzanne Yockman calling the action. Sarah Zoldos in her first appearance this season on balance beam for the LSU Tigers. That's how decimated this lineup has been because of injuries. The score, by the way, for Casey Duval before the break was a low 8.9. They've had other good scores, 9.825 for Shelby Prunty and Kaylee Dixon, a 9.65. Score, by the way, on floor for Ashley Sledge before the break was a 9.85.
So you really have to hand it to this athlete. She's hitting her skills. You can see the nervousness. You can see in some of the movements that it's not a position she's been in a lot, but good for her.
The team is so excited to see her hit a routine right here, right when they need it.
And this is what Dee Dee Bro wanted to see. After a fall, how does my team respond? And maybe she's getting a glimpse of some brilliance that they'll need to carry into the later part of the season. Gutierrez now. Scores for Alabama range from a 9.75 to a 9.875.
We saw her earlier in the season, and boy, has she really improved.
Kathy, you mentioned before the break that Alabama legitimately could challenge for the national title this year. They've won it 4 times. Only 4 teams in the history of women's collegiate gymnastics have won an NCAA championship. Of course, Georgia, Utah, UCLA, and Alabama. Alabama will have its hands full with Florida, as we've seen, is an incredible team. But this could be their year, and they're young still. Incredible.
Now, this is when Sarah Patterson's at her best. The end of the season. She always has her teams prepared, and they always compete well postseason.
One thing that puts them right up there with Florida is their level of difficulty. They're throwing the bigger skills, opening and ending with difficulty in floor exercise. She opened with a double layout, and this is her final pass, a double pike. Nice height. She came up with some good landings on all 3 passes.
She did. She was solid.
Back to the beam now for LSU. Janelle Garcia gets the call to compete. Sarah Zoldo's got a 9.8. She hasn't even competed at all this year on beam.
You can see more sureness of her movement, even just on the dance steps. A little more confidence.
Dee and her coaches really have to develop.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that was just a little twiddle jump, a little beat jump. And her foot just missed. That was weird. Unfortunate.
That's really due to lack of experience, isn't it?
You know, you see little things like that every once in a while. They just are flukes. Now she's just rattled. Yeah, rattled.
I don't think she was expecting the first mistake.
Oh, that's too bad.
Oh, that is. She was so solid throughout until that little mistake. And then you can see what happens when an athlete gets rattled.
2 breaks for the Tigers on beam means they have to count at least 1 low score. Deandra Milliner. Boy, she's fun to watch on this event. By the way, the score for Marissa Gutierrez, a 9.9.
Milner was actually sick against Georgia and didn't compete, and then came back on floor in Michigan and only scored a 9.725. She's just now getting back healthy, Coach Patterson says, and they really want her to get some experience tonight to be ready for next week.
In terms of national ranking, she's tied with Kayla Hoffman for 9th in the country on this event. Kayla Hoffman will be the final performer for the Crimson Tide on floor.
Bart, the SEC championships are in Birmingham next weekend, so that could end up being great for Alabama.
And an NCAA regional is here as well, so things are looking good for the Crimson Tide as we go now to Samantha Engel, the senior gymnast in her final dual meet of her college career. And added pressure because the score for Janelle Garcia is a 9.0. They'll count that score because they can drop the 8.9 from Casey Duval. So a little added intensity for Engel here.
This is when you really want to see an athlete come through. Handle this pressure. Finish strong.
And this is the athlete that Dee was really counting on for the leadership that this team desperately needs this year, but she's had her own problems with sprained ankles. and hasn't really been able to provide that leadership because of her own situation.
T.B. Bro says she's the gymnast that has that it factor. She has that polish and that complete presentation.
Strong finish for LSU on balance beam.
You see the angles are relieved, to say the least. Kayla Hoffman, it's senior night. Senior Kayla Hoffman had a disappointment on the beam, 9-3. Let's see if she can wrap up her regular season career here with a strong routine on floor.
She's so capable here. You really want to see a big one.
That's a little bit of a low landing there.
Her teammate, Deandra Milliner, had a 9.925.
You know, Kathy, I think they look a little tired. Just not that normal energy that you typically see from an Alabama team at home.
I think we're seeing that they're human. The last 4 meets, they were seeing superhuman, just bettering themselves each time out. She can live up to the power of that music.
What a great night. What a great floor routine for her. And she has one more time to compete in this arena at the regional meet.
All right, we'll be back with the score for Hoffman and the final results after this great night of gymnastics. Welcome back to Tuscaloosa for the final wrap-up. A group hug among all the athletes as there is some relief as the regular season comes to close. LSU scores on the balance beam. Had to count a 9.0 from Garcia. Engel finished up with a 9.85. Alabama, look at those 3 final scores. 9-9, 9-9-2-5, 9-9-2-5. And in the final standings, Alabama wins by 2.2 points and finishes just 5/100ths of a point under that all-important 197-point mark. Suzanne is down on the floor with Sarah Patterson right now.
Well, Sarah, 196.95 with counting a fall on balance beam. Not the score you'd hope for, but a great finish anyway.
Well, you know, we almost went 197, and I just felt like we were a little tired, and I knew that going in tonight. It's been a rough week, a lot of stress academically. We're ready for spring break and to regroup, get some energy, and head into SECs.
Well, hopefully you're ready for SECs. Looking ahead to that, what do you need to do this week?
Well, I think we just need to rest, and then we need to recover, and then we need to come in and fix some of our problems. Obviously, this is the first time in quite a while we've had a fall on balance beam. I think our ladies will bounce back. I think they'll rebound. This is a test.
Well, next week you get to compete in the SEC Championships in Birmingham. It'll be like a home meet for you. Do you think the energy level will help?
I think so. It will be a great environment up there. We love being on the podium. We did that this year out in the Metroplex Challenge. So I feel like, you know, I hope that the crowd is great, but I think the energy from all of the institutions in the SEC is going to be awesome.
Well, thank you, Coach Patterson.
Well, Alabama wins all 4 event titles, but that score 196.95 is not enough to overtake Florida in the national standing. So Alabama will head into next week's SECs and will be there behind #1 ranked Florida. Once again, our final score, Alabama 196.95, LSU 194.75. Join us on ESPN2 for the Women's SEC Gymnastics Championships. For Suzanne Yocklin and Kathy Johnson-Clark, I'm Bart Connor. Thanks for watching. So long from Tuscaloosa.